When we left off, we were on paragraph 9, and so we're going to always go back and forth to our note sheet to make sure that we don't have a question. So I wrote my note sheet right here, and I see paragraph 9 has the question number 21, and paragraph 9 and 10 has the question number 24. So before I even read paragraph 9, I'm going to go to question 21 and remind myself what it is. Read this sentence from paragraph 9. Soldiers reported seeing this camel swinging along under a little mountain of carpet sacks, cooking utensils, blankets, etc. The most likely reason the author uses figurative language in this description of the camel is to. Okay, so I'm going to read paragraph 9 and I'm going to think about what the entire paragraph is about when I'm answering this question. The soldiers at Camp Verde paid little attention to them. Some camels wandered off, so they weren't even watching them. Some camels wandered off. 3 traveled to a war-torn countryside of Arkansas. One Confederate general used a camel to carry his company's baggage. So there's one, but only one. Soldiers reporting seeing this camel swinging along under a little mountain of carpet sacks, cooking utensils, blankets, etc. So he has one camel carrying carpet bags, and that's what it's talking about in that quote. It's asking us. He was swinging along under a little mountain of carpet sacks. Trying to picture that in my head, swinging along. All right, so I can picture him swinging, boom, 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 cooking utensils, blankets, etc. So he was swinging along and he had a whole lot of stuff on him, this one little camel. Why did the author include this in this story? A, support the purpose for the camels being sold. Okay, so I know that's not true because this has nothing to do with camels being sold. So I can mark that off. Where's my mark off thing? Oh, here it is. Okay, so mark, strike through. That was fun. Okay, now let's go to the next one. And it says, emphasize hardships the camels endured, suffered. Hardships are difficulties. Okay, but when I'm looking at that, I'm not seeing a difficulty that the camel endured. He's just swinging along under a mountain of carpet sacks. He's being used to carry company's baggage. So I'm thinking not. Convey the peculiar sight of the camels rolling, the strange sight of the camels traveling around. Okay, well, he's traveling and he has a bunch of cooking utensils and blankets, so that would look pretty strange to me. So let's see, that's one's possibility. Describe the type of terrain, the type of ground traveled by the camels. Well, obviously not. They're not even describing it in that. And so this one's really, really easy if you simply pay close attention to what it says. The obvious answer is C. Okay, so let's go on to oh, I remember I have a 9 and 10 question on there. So 9 and 10 was question 24. Let's remind ourselves what this question is. What is the most likely the author's purpose for organizing paragraphs 9 and 10 using cause and effect? Okay, so let's figure out what the cause was on this. The cause is the Camp Verde soldiers paid little attention to the camels. Some of them wandered off. Some of them, one of them was, they were doing different things. So what's the effect of all that? Let's look at paragraph 10. When the Civil War ended in 1865, the camels at Camp Verde became property of the U.S. government. I'm still not seeing an effect. A year later, the 66 remaining camels were auctioned off. They were sold. 66 remaining. Oh, I'm seeing the effect of them pretty much being ignored, right? Edward Bill, oh, there's that guy again. What number was that? Edward Bill. Edward Bill had been so taken with, so interested in the camels, he bought some of them. That's important. We know we have a question about Bill. He bought some of the camels. Bill's camels retired to his California ranch. That's important. What did he do with the camels? Where they lived in comfort. Others were bought and used to carry supplies over land. So I'm seeing the cause was Nobody knew what to do with these camels. They were just being kind of set out. And the effect was all this was the camels were sold and people bought them. When these camels were no longer needed, the owners turned the camels loose. Wow, that's sad. Nobody to take care of them. Camels loose. Over the years, settlers and miners claimed to see the wild camels roaming, traveling around the American Southwest. Okay, so let's see. What number was that? I already forgot. The cause and effect. Number 24. Number 24. Okay, why was this the cause and effect? To explain how the camels were able to travel long distances. I did not see anything about that explanation in there. To indicate that the camels were more helpful in certain locations. Let's see, were they more helpful in certain locations? I don't think I saw anything about that in there. To illustrate why the soldiers ignored the camels. Did they say why? It says they paid little attention to them, but then the effect was that they were actually taken to different places, sold off, auctioned off, and so yeah, okay, can't be that because that doesn't have anything to do with it. To explain how the camels ended up in many places, appeared in many places. Well, that one's obviously the right answer because that's exactly what happened to them. They were paid little attention to, and so they ended up in different places in paragraph 10. That's an extremely easy one, too. What I really want you guys to see, if you will read with, if you will actively read and pay attention to what it is and highlight and think about what it is, these questions become extremely easy. Their answers are obvious, but if you don't read and pay attention, basically the people who created the STAAR test are asking, are these students thinking while they read? Do they pay attention? Do they see what's going on in there? If you do, you can get these questions right. You can. You need to start getting them right, okay? Well, let's see. I think I had another paragraph 10, number 20. Let's look at that one. Number 20. Retire. Oh, okay. Where was that one? That word, retire. Retire. Bill's camels retired to his California ranch. Now, when I have a question like this that gives me four different definitions, all of these definitions are in the dictionary. Retired means conclude a working career. It means remove from danger. It means retreat from a position. It means withdraw to bed. It means all four of those things, but it's only used one way in this. So let's think about what it's used, how it's used. Okay, so these camels were working. They were property of the US government. Um, they worked and they carried a whole lot of stuff with them all this time. And then they retired to a California ranch where they lived in comfort. So they concluded a working career. I'm looking at that thinking that's a pretty good possibility because they were working all that time and then they ended up concluding it. Removed from danger? No, they were never in any danger. Retreat from a position? What position? I don't know what position is talking. Withdraw to bed? Well, that's the silly one. Of course, they didn't withdraw to a bed. And so, of course, this one's easy too when you read carefully. It's definition one. Okay. Now, let's go back to our bill guy. I think that was number 27. Yep. Based on information presented in this article, the reader can infer that Edward Fitzgerald Bill. Let's remember what we thought or learned about him. We learned that he really liked the camels. He admired them. He thought they were really good at carrying things across the desert. And then we also learned that he bought some, and when he bought them, he took them to his ranch to relax and live in comfort. He took them to his ranch so that they could enjoy the rest of their lives. So knowing those two things, let's see which one is the right answer. A, believed that the camels had earned some time to relax. That one looks pretty good because that's exactly what he did. He bought them so that they could relax. Let's look at B, retired from the army after the Civil War. Well, that's a silly one. We don't know. It doesn't say anything about that after that. So, felt that the camels could survive only in a desert environment. Well, obviously that's not true because he took them to a ranch, a California ranch. So that's a silly one too. Left Texas after it seceded from the North. How do we know? Doesn't say anything in there. There's no proof of any of those except for A. Believed that the camels had earned some time to relax. He took them to relax. So A is the only one with proof. Again, another easy one if you will read and think while you read. Okay, did we finish all of these? I know we did this one. If you weren't here when we did this one, I'm just going to go through it really quickly to remind you. As Texas politicians argued whether their state should secede, Okay, when you have one like this, what does the word politician mean as used in paragraph 7? You notice it doesn't give us four different definitions. So when we have one like this without the four different definitions, bring your dictionary up and make sure that you're using context clues and a dictionary. The politician, a person who takes an active part in party politics or in government business. All right, so it's a person who takes an active part in government, right? And we're looking at this, and I can see that that's the case in here. As Texas politicians argued whether their state should secede, they were taking an active role in the government to argue if their state should secede. So, A, people who supervise transportation systems, that's silly, it has nothing to do with it. B, people in charge of buying and selling goods, no. C, people who frequently debate, that's the tricky one. They have discussions and arguments, and you could actually see that you could actually accidentally take that one and think that one because they were arguing. But if you use your dictionary and check your answer, you won't get that one. You'll know that it's people engaged in government who have jobs in government. So that one's easy when you back it up with a dictionary. Okay. And then which phrase from paragraph 7 best supports the answer to part A? Well, I'm going to look and see what it says with politicians. As Texas, politicians argued whether their state should also secede. Okay, well, so that's what they were doing to take part. They were arguing. Argued whether, well, the answer is actually given to me. That one's so easy. Rid his command of the camels? No. Before he received an answer? No. Found themselves in charge of weapons, wagons, and supplies. That didn't even happen with the politicians. The politicians were doing this. So that one's extremely easy too, if you will take the time to read and think. Okay, 23, which sentence from the article shows that some people viewed the camels as useful? So this is a case where it's asking you for text evidence. Which one proves that some thought the camels were useful? And in a question like this, you have to read the question carefully, and you have to match the answer with the question with the best answer. So let's see how we would do that, okay? Davis hoped that the camels could be used to explore the deserts of West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. So does this prove that the camels, that people saw them as useful? I don't think it does because he just hoped that they would be used, but they weren't actually used. So I'm thinking A is probably not it. Going to B, he suggested that he could save the U.S. government more than $500 each month by ending the camel corps. Well, that has nothing to do with the camels being useful. So that one's a silly ha ha answer. Let's look at C. They loaned other camels to the Postal Service to deliver mail around San Antonio, Texas. Okay, so that one's looking pretty good because if they're loaning camels to do a service, then they think that the camels are useful. Otherwise, they wouldn't loan to do a service. So I'm looking at C going, hey, that one's pretty good. D. When the Civil War ended in 1865, the camels at Camp Verde became the property of the U.S. government. That has nothing to do with them being useful. They just became property. So the only one where they're being useful is C. That one's easy too. All right, let's look at number 25. Paragraph 6 through 8, we already did that one together, so we're not going to waste our time with that one. We knew that the answer was C. Let's look at number 26. Which sentence best expresses the controlling idea of the article? This is asking for the thesis statement. What is the whole article about? All right, so A, the camels were bound for the newly formed U.S. Camel Corps that belonged to the U.S. War Department. Okay, so maybe because that is what it was about the camels and it was about them being in the U.S. Camel Corps. So let's put a maybe on that one. B, he believed the camels could carry supplies to remote army posts and even carry soldiers to watch over pioneer settlements. Hmm. Okay, I'm liking B a lot too because that's what the camels did throughout. They carried supplies to remote army posts and even carried soldiers to watch over pioneer settlements. And that's what a lot of it was about. Let's look at C. The southern states decided to secede or break. Oh, that's not even about camels. That one's silly. D. He asked permission to sell the camels or let them loose on the prairie. That's not about what they did. So A or B. I think this question is probably the only hard question in the entire reading because it really is kind of confusing. I think they did belong to the U.S. Camel Corps, but at the same time, I think a bigger thing was that they carried supplies to remote army posts and even carried soldiers because that's what they did. throughout the whole thing. So I'm going with B. This one wasn't easy. This one was a little bit hard. Now, that's the final thing you do is make sure that you answered all the questions. Notice I answered them in different order because I answered them based on where I was in the passage. And notice that a lot of them are extremely easy if you will read and think as you read. You can do it. You can. Don't be lazy.